Oh, hi.
Noon.
The United States military, an unparalleled fighting force, the world's largest recipient of welfare, occasional mercenary for an undisclosed Middle Eastern state. Did you know they also produce their own alcohol? Well, if you watched my last video, you already kind of have a heads up on that. But if you didn't, and this get up, just, called your attention to watch me for the first time, hi, I'm Noon, and we're going to be drinking Military Special. And if you don't already know, these are only available on military bases. To my knowledge, they're only sold in the United States. It's possible these are also available overseas. I don't know. I've never seen this stuff outside of this situation. Everybody I know has better taste. So something interesting about this product is that aside from it being marketed exclusively to PX or just the liquor stores and gas stations that are over on military bases, is that it calls itself a fine American blended whiskey. And if you watch my first video, my introduction, you know that I said I'm a bourbon steward, which means I know how to read a label statement. It's nothing special, But the little fine print down here says that this is actually 80% grain neutral spirit and 20% 3-year-old whiskey, which means this is kind of like taking leftover Barton's vodka and pouring in Old Crow whiskey into it and pretending that you have a fine product, or at least something palatable. It's sold in plastic containers, which is good because of you don't want your underage military personnel to cut themselves if they drop this when they're trying to sneak it into the barracks. And we're going to be trying to drink it. And I'm saying trying in the most genuine sense. I'm going to drink it straight, and then I'm going to try to see if I can kind of salvage something, because I'm expecting nothing out of this. If I try it right now in my fancy little glass, my little tasting glass, if I try that in this and it actually is pretty good, then I'll have no complaints and I'll have no problem admitting that I was wrong. I don't suspect that's going to be the case, however. But without further ado, let's get this thing open if I can. Just make sure there's no peeling tab or anything. The label is kind of a mystery, aside from the fact that it's 40% and then 80% vodka and 20% whiskey. The rest of it's kind of like there's a story on the back. And one of the interesting things that I've found about the products that Military Special makes is that the producers are one of any number of companies, and it appears that the contract changes hands relatively frequently. It was at one point Sazerac. I'm probably saying that incorrectly. People say I've heard that said 3 or 4 different ways. But it was theirs. I've also heard it's Barton's. And if it is Barton's, the vodka that's behind me is going to make you violently ill, because that's what put me in the hospital when I was in high school with alcohol poisoning. Fun times. But we're going to see. Is it even going to? Okay, it does snap. That's good to know. It has one of those. It has one of those goofy, low flow, I can't remember what that thing is called. It's it's designed to keep you from pouring too quickly. I don't think that's going to be a problem for me. I'm going to give this a quick whiff, and yes, I'm going to pull my mask forwards a little bit so I can get it without the mask. Well, it smells like sweet rubbing alcohol, if I'm being quite honest. But that's what we came here for. This, if you're particularly keen, you may notice 2 things. One, this is not a Glencairn glass. I broke my only Glencairn glass trying to wash it specifically for this video because I'd used it last night for something unrelated. I wanted to make sure it was good and clean, and I snapped it. The crystal on those Glencairns is extremely thin, and I remember in my first video I said I have nerve damage. I didn't even realize that I had cracked it until I heard it, like pieces of it hitting inside of the sink. This glass is supposed to be reinforced in some manner. I have no idea. And if you're particularly astute, you may notice that there are little dry water spots on this. They were supposed to have, I live in an apartment, and they were supposed to have fixed the water to make sure that the water was not doing this anymore. It was supposed to be softened. But there's nothing I could do about that. I dried it with a cloth and everything. And that's just how it is. It'll have a little extra mineral deposits to it, and maybe it'll help. In addition to that, I have my extra glass over here with some, water in it. And I know a lot of people like to have those like droppers when they add water to whiskey. I just use a stick, like this is a metal chopstick here. I use these to deposit water bit by bit into my glass. I've never had an issue with it, but I also typically drink my my alcohol neat, so I don't ever want to add too much water. I know that too much is subjective, but for me, just a little bit will do you. Without further ado, I'm procrastinating here. Let's get a little glug in this. Oh geez. Now, while I'm sitting here, and I'm gonna let this kind of sit, you're not gonna see it on camera apparently, but something that is good to know, you might be wondering, well, what the hell is a Glencairn glass, and why does it matter what kind of glass you have to begin with? Whiskey is a very pretentious spirit, and what I mean by that is an awfully pale yellow color. Then again, if you dilute your whiskey with a clear spirit, that's to be expected. It looks almost like Jameson in color. I wonder if there's an artificial coloring that's been added to this. In any case, so the shape of the glass is designed, I gotta quit putting it down so you can actually see what I'm talking about. The design of the glass is designed to kind of open it up to allow some of the more volatile vapors of ethanol to escape, while also it sort of funnels back more narrow near the end, so you can get some of the aromas that are coming out of the spirit while that's happening. Glencairn is shaped a little different than this. This designed, I believe, watch me make a fool of myself. You're not gonna be able to see it. Okay, no, this is designed for this. You can set this on the table and you can move it back and forth and see how the light and everything interacts with it that way. It also allows it to open up more without adjusting the volume too much. So that is the only thing that makes the Glencairn and these specialty whiskey glasses unique, is that it is specifically designed for the spirit. There is other glasses out there made for other spirits specifically. I have sake cups. If you know anything about wines, you know that wine glasses have a specific shape for a specific for the specific purpose of giving you the ability to smell and stuff as you drink it. So I'm gonna give this another whiff now that it's had a moment to kind of settle inside the glass here. It's actually not as malodorous as I was expecting. It has sort of an apricot smell. It's kind of a candy-ish, or it's a little artificially sweet smelling, but it's like a dried apricot, not like a fresh one. So it smells kind of like when you open up one of those plastic containers of the dried fruit, and you can smell that. That's what that kind of smells like, but it's kind of flat. That's the only smell I'm picking up. Can we go again? Maybe a little brown sugar, which that's kind of to be expected. Something to note about whiskey tastings as well is if you ever decide you want to get into whiskey tasting, there's a couple of different butter. It smells kind of like butter. There's a little bit of a butter smell. There's a couple of flavors that you have to throw out. which that one of the things that always bugged me about doing whiskey competitions and having judged with them is that you always have vanilla. Vanilla is a natural stand-in when you age your spirit in oak. If your spirit touches oak for longer than a year, it's going to have vanilla. Every whiskey is going to taste like vanilla. When you're tasting it, don't think vanilla. Don't say vanilla. If you can avoid it, if it's all you taste, then go with it. But you should, in general, avoid saying or thinking about the vanilla because it's a natural product of it being there. It's kind of like if you were drinking a wine and you said, "Oh, it tastes kind of like grapes." Well, no shit. That's what's in there. Find something else. Find something else. Some people get overly dramatic and overly pretentious about it, and they start. Sounds like they're just making shit up. Sometimes they are, especially judges, like proper judges. They sound like they're making shit up. A lot of the times they actually are. I try to grasp for things that are familiar enough to where whoever I may be speaking to knows what I'm talking about. So like if I was smelling, I'm trying to think of one thing in specific, you wouldn't, if you were talking to somebody who was like from Afghanistan or something like that, like the deserts of, like they're the fucking Gobi Desert. They don't even know what grass is. But said, oh, it smells like freshly cut grass. They're gonna look at you and have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Keep it to something that is recognizable between the both of you, and you'll be able to communicate what you're smelling and tasting a little bit better. I'm gonna try to give this another whiff, see if I can't find anything else, because this is, I wasn't expecting it to be, it's not complicated, there's like, but it's more complex than I was expecting. I'm being genuine here. No, it seems like it's actually kind of lost some of its ability, some of its smell. Some of the aromas seem to have kind of escaped, and that's fine. It's such a high proof and it's such a diluted amount of actual whiskey that it makes sense that some of it could escape. So now I'm gonna go in for a small sip. Well, I don't have to cover anything for this. Now, it doesn't have a whole lot going on. It is a very mute flavor. Very smooth. Very smooth. Shockingly smooth, considering it's 80% freaking vodka in that bottle. But it's smooth. It's genuinely smooth. It's not offensive, and it didn't make me shudder, but it's not exactly I'm having a hard time grabbing any flavor. Like, remember how I said skip vanilla and find, I can't even really pinpoint vanilla in this, and that's because of the dilution of the whiskey itself. The vodka is adding something. There's a weird sweetness to it. Again, I can't find any evidence that there's any adultery going on with the product. I don't know if they've added caramel coloring. I don't know if they add artificial sweeteners. It doesn't say that anywhere on here, but with it being a government product, it may be exempt from the labeling statement's requirements for those. Sort of a toffee smell that kind of comes up, the retroolfaction, which is when you taste something and you have it go up in your nasal capacity or your nasal cavity and come back down. That's retroolfaction. There's more going on than I was expecting, but it's not standing out. It's not impacting me. Let's go for a bigger one. And that, it's kind of awkward to drink out of this glass for me. I've never drank out of it before. This is my first time using it. And the Glencairn, you don't tip it back quite as far. This one here, that dip is so severe, but I got to tip this thing quite far back to actually get any of the juice out. Let's go. Okay. Okay, so that second sip, I give it a good swish, and I found a couple of more flavors, but I also found a lot more burn right underneath them. It has sort of the same kind of a mouthfeel as, okay, that vodka, that cheap plastic bottle of vodka is really starting to show itself. That's unpleasant. Now, the flavors that I was tasting before that, it was uh, what would I compare it to? Sort of like Cracker Jacks. What do they call it? Caramel corn, whatever. That it tasted kind of like that. There was a little bit of a nut taste, a little bit of a burnt butter taste, a little bit of a sweet caramel sauce kind of flavor. But it was only there for about a breath, and then this burn came back. There's the when alcohol warms up and then it's agitated, more of those volatile vapors burns off. And so me swishing it around, I exhaled through my nose, which was an amateur mistake, but it's been a little while since I've done this thorough of a tasting, so forgive me for that. And then after I actually swallowed the fluid there, it burned all the way down, and I think it's because my body temperature and the agitation caused those vapors to come back out. There's a weird grassy note, hay, straw, something like that I'm picking up now. It has a sticky mouthfeel, and I don't really care for that. And I associate that with artificially sweetened products. Like I know a lot of folks like Jack and Coke or rum and Coke. For whatever reason, unless it's like a Mexican Coke, which is 100% sugar, or the kosher Cokes, which are also 100% sugar, if it has the corn syrup in it, and you mix that with alcohol, it makes my teeth feel sticky. And I don't know what else to compare it to. It makes it feel like you just have a mouthful of syrup and it's not going away. So I've only got a little bit left. That's enough. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to it, see if I can't discover anything that way. Sorry for the delay. This is not very exciting content. I don't know if I want to edit around this or leave it as is, because I'm sure I'll have mixed responses either way. But I'm going to put the whiskey back in the water. You want to keep those two things, well, not really this, but you want to keep that as undiluted and unmanipulated as possible. But I'm planning on trying to leave this just as it is. That way you're getting my uncensored, unfiltered take. I was expecting to take one drink of this and then make a bunch of really heinous jokes like I did at the very beginning of the video. But to be honest, it's drinkable. It's serviceable. That's a better word. It's serviceable. I'm pretty sure I could come up with something that's going to make this okay, but it's such a weak flavor that it's probably going to be better off in something like of course, my gut wants to say, of course, you're okay with a Manhattan, you're okay with an old fashioned, because you're already kind of taking those flavors and hiding them underneath other stuff. But a good whiskey, a strong whiskey, especially if it's a higher ABV, it contributes character and flavor to the cocktails that actually shines. If you made one of those, like a Manhattan or an old fashioned, with this, it would just disappear. The whiskey, I'm sure, would have a really hard time standing out. It might be okay with something where the whiskey is not really the star of the show. And I know the Boulevardier is a whiskey forward cocktail, but this might be okay in a Boulevardier because some of the more fancy dressed up Boulevardiers, the orange, like there's a place I go to here in town that makes a fantastic one. They take a dried blood orange wheel, they top it with a little bit of cinnamon bark, and then they hit it with a torch as it floats on top of your drink. It's a little a little dramatic, you know, a little flashy, but this would probably be good with that because of there's so much else going on that the whiskey doesn't really. About a smoked old fashioned. Yeah, I don't have the means to make one. It's kind of an expensive apparatus to have, but I'm willing to bet that a smoked old fashioned with this would be pretty good because you'd be adding a significant flavor and character back into this, especially if you did it with like an odd one here. Because a lot of people do like a cherry smoked old fashioned. If you don't know what that is, they take an apparatus and they put it over the top of your drink, and you burn a low temperature wood so that the smoke is pulled through the glass, and it leaves like it doesn't really impact the liquid. A lot of people think that the smoke it's adding smoke residue to the glass, so that as you drink it, or getting that retro olfaction, you're getting that smoke residue coming with the drink, but you're also getting that smell of freshly burnt whatever kind of wood. I bet a mesquite smoked old fashioned with this would probably be pretty good because this is muted and it's kind of light. Any sort of iced drink would make this feel a little bit more refreshing. You could probably do, I can't remember what it's called. I got a comment yesterday from a fellow named Achilles, who is a bartender. He might know what I'm talking about. There's a lemonade drink made with whiskey. The name is just slipping my mind right now. But that would probably be good with this because the whiskey the taste is inoffensive, but it needs something to kind of temp that alcohol down. And let's give this another whiff now that water's mixed in with it. Oh. Well, hello. The water, just a little bit of, again, you saw I maybe did like 2 little dabs of water in here. The water has opened it up, and now I smell, it's going to be a strange one, there's like a whiff. It's like almost like a pastry, like a chocolate croissant. There's a little bit of like a cocoa note that's in there, and it smells kind of artificial. So I'm not sure if there's some fuckery going on with the bottles, but one more go. Yeah, it's like a weird artificial sweetness. There's like, because now I'm getting like candy corn type smell. And I love candy corn, don't get me wrong. But in a whiskey, it's a weird, because candy corn is a super concentrated, it's basically a solid corn syrup with vanilla flavoring added to it. So that's kind of a strange thing to pick up. And we're just gonna tap it again. Well, that little bit of water did wonders for that burn. The taste, I'm still picking up a little bit of that dried fruit, sort of maybe not, yeah, maybe a little bit of date, but it'd be like one of those super sugary ones that you find in like trail mix at Walmart or something. But apricot is definitely still there. That hay taste has gotten stronger. And some people like that hay taste. I don't hate it. It's just, it's interesting. But there's a lot of like artificially sweet going on here. And I'm not sure what that is. A little bit of brown sugar. That dried fruit note is pretty strong. I think this would be pretty good in some of the classic whiskey cocktails. The lemonade one is driving me fucking nuts right now. I know that once I hit send on this video, it's gonna hit me like a bolt of lightning, and I'm gonna be fucking furious. But nothing I can do about it. But yeah, this is with just a little bit of water. This becomes serviceable is still the word I want to use, because when I think drinkable, I think like Angel's Envy, which I know a lot of people really, really like Angel's Envy, but to me it's just drinkable. I don't like, it's not really great for much. It's just a decent sipper. For $10 though, and it being a fucking handle of it, that's not a bad deal for what it is. It's absurd that it's not even really whiskey. It's 80% vodka, 20% whiskey. Let's just finish this off. Yeah, if you hold it in your mouth long enough, that burn comes up quick. Like a cherry lozenge. I'm finding weird flavor notes. Some of them I like more than others. That cherry lozenge flavor there at the very end, not a fan. It kind of reminds me of medication. That's 26 minutes. Holy shit, and that's just the water part. Well, maybe I'll have to split this into more parts because there's no fucking way that anybody's going to watch that for 26 minutes. So I apologize for how long-winded this was, and you have a good day. Thanks for tuning in.